So when and where were you born?
Born in Aberdeen on the east coast of Scotland on June the 3rd, 1962.
Cool. And you had 4 sisters. You were the second born.
Yeah.
What did you 5 do for fun growing up in the Scottish Highlands?
Lots of time outside. We lived in a little fishing village, so the sea was there, lots of farming around us. We had pets growing up, so there was always an excuse to be outside, whether it was walking on the beach, picking up rocks and going fishing, or taking the dog for a walk. So a lot of time spent outside, a lot of time playing games as well with my sisters, and a bit of fun.
Yeah, of course, as it is. And your parents, what did they do for work to support you and your 4 sisters? And how did it compare to other families in the village?
It was a small village. There were probably only 200 or 300 people living in it when I was. This is Fort Charles. It's much bigger now. There's over 1,000 people there now. And it was a lot of fishers, a lot of farmers, and some shopkeepers. There was a baker and a butcher and a post office, and like all of those things that are now sort of cartoons of what a community was like. But that was really what the community was like. And Mum and Dad were both teachers, so there was a school in the community, which went, when I was there, it was a primary school and a secondary school, elementary and secondary. And I don't know how many kids were in the school, but it was mixed classes for all of it because there was very few kids. And I was taught by both my mum and my dad in the school, which was actually not a bad experience. School was different then. There wasn't so much bullying, there wasn't violence in schools, there was no drugs or anything like that. So it was I didn't find that a difficult thing at all. So yeah, they were teachers.
What brought you to Canada, and how did that lead you to meeting Mom?
Well, I was offered a position in Newfoundland. I had no idea, I didn't know anything about Newfoundland. I thought it was this exotic tropical island somewhere on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. I'll come there. And it was a 2-year thing. I was coming over for 2 years because a guy was going back to school to do orthodontics actually, and he needed somebody to look after his office. And I thought that sounded like a great adventure, and it was 2 years. You know, I'll tell you now, if I had known that I would never live in Scotland again, I'm not sure I would have left. But life has carried me places I never expected, and at times I never thought it would. Anyway, so I was offered this position in Lewisport in rural Newfoundland to take over this office, and one of the first patients I saw was Mum, who came in to get her teeth. I don't really remember much about it. She remembers it, as you do as a patient more, but I'd seen a lot of people. So that's when I first met her, although I have to say my memory of that is pretty foggy, so it wasn't love at first sight. But her mum and dad, her dad was an Anglican minister, and her mum was the organist in the church, and they found out that I was a trumpet player. So there was some big thing coming up, Easter or Christmas or something. And Anne's dad, who was never had a problem asking people for favors. And I mean that in the kind of, he's an amazing, beautiful human being. Anyway, he asked me if I'd go and play in his church, and I said, of course. So I did, sort of fell in love with Anne's mum and dad before I did with her in a way, because she would have been at work, she was working in the hospital in Gander. So I practiced with your mom, and we did the service, and afterwards we went home to their house to have a meal that was their thank you to me for it. And that's when I really first got to know Mom, and the thing that's most memorable about that is washing the dishes after the meal, and we sort of, that's when it was, oh yeah, I kind of like you. And so from that day forth, that's why we've never owned a dishwasher.
Yeah.
Because washing dishes is a romantic thing for us.
Back. Funny. Yeah. Oh, that's great. And then you had 4 kids back to back, to back to back. What were some of the best parts
Oh,
of being a
it was
dad?
all great.
All great.
All great. Honestly, I just loved being a dad. I was so fortunate then in that I could sort of arrange my work life so that I could be present for you and your sibs. And I never worked more than 4 days a week when you were young. Actually, right up until you left home, basically. And that's a privilege to have been able to do that, because we never had a fancy house, we didn't have fancy cars, as you well know, Sam. So we didn't make a lot of money, but oh my gosh, the time that we bought to be, or I bought. Mum was a stay-at-home mum for that time. It was all lovely, you know, from the crazy blurry years of when we had 4 kids under 5 years old. Like, yeah, a blur, a beautiful big blur, but it was a blur for a long time. But watching each of you develop your own character and how you interacted with each other, and then as later on as we homeschooled, I'm not jumping ahead to your further questions, but recognizing just how different and unique every person, every child is, even though they come from the same gene pool. You learned to read in a totally different way from Kate or Alex or Dan. Yeah. And it was a real life lesson that, not just the educational part of it, but my gosh, how different people can be, even though they grew up.
What things are important in your life right now?
Right off the top, and without doubt, the most important thing remain my children and my grandchildren. So blessed to have your 2 little ones as close as they are. I mean, we're less than half an hour away, and that's something that I think I've lived my life almost without regret, Sam. I can look back and say, there's nothing that I would say, oh God, I wish I had done that, or I wish I'd. And that's a privilege as well, to be able to say that. But there is the thing that sort of gnaws at me still a little bit, is that when you were growing up, we were disconnected to a large extent from your mum's mum and dad and my mum and dad and extended families. And so we tried hard to maintain a close relationship, and I think we did. Yeah. But it's not like this. I mean, here I am, finished work, and I was here 20 minutes later and played trains for a little bit. I'll go back and do some more of that. So that's the biggest joy in my life, and the thing that provides me with balance from the crazy, sometimes ugly and cruel world of politics. Just to come here and have that young energy, that purity, that beauty of soul, that it just fills me up.
How do you feel about growing old? Is it hard? Are there things you look forward to?
Yeah, there are bits that are a piss off. You don't have the energy. I'm not as I used to love, as you know, exercising and running marathons and doing a lot of physical stuff in the garden, and I mean, I still do that, but I don't have the vigor, I don't have the stamina or the strength that I used to have. But I've learned to sort of surrender to those physical restrictions that inevitably come with age, and I'm at peace with that. I mean, I said it was a piss off. That's not really an accurate way of putting it. It's just that's the way of life, and I look after myself. I do exercise. I walk a lot. And I eat well, and so far, touch wood, I'm in good health. And again, that's not something I take for granted. I've seen too many of my friends become ill and die younger than me. So physically, yep, there are things that I no longer can do that I used to, and you learn the restrictions that come with that. But for the most part, I'm really enjoying growing old, Sam. I'm a much wiser person than I used to be. I'm a calmer person. Not that I was ever particularly uptight or anxious. I wasn't. That wasn't my nature. But I've learned about myself. I've learned about the world. I've learned about relationships in a way that I know I'm a much wiser, better person than I was, and I don't think I was an arsehole when I was younger. But I think the wisdom that can come with age, it doesn't necessarily, but I'm trying to find that all the time. I'm always trying to learn. I read all the time. I watch people all the time. I question myself. I'm trying to become self-aware. And the slowing down and the less hectic life that I have now than when I was a full-on parent, for example, or running my own dental office, and where things like time for introspection was limited. I'm really glad to have that now in a way that I didn't before. I mean, my life is still pretty crazy, by the way, but I make space for that, and I'm really enjoying, as long as I'm healthy and as long as Anne and I are still together, and our relationship is stronger and better now than it's ever been. And I know, again, that's not something I take for granted.
Do you have a philosophy for life? If someone were to ask you what's important to live a good life, what would you say?
I could say that in very few words. Think for yourself and live for others. By that I mean don't be told what to think. Like, question things, develop your own reasons and answers to things, and your own way of doing things. Don't be told the way things are, because so often that's not the case. But it takes a lot of work to think for yourself. It's easy to absorb what the conventional thinking is. So think for yourself and live for others. Be of service to others. And
if you had the power to solve one problem in the world, what would it be?
Climate change.
Yeah, easy one.
Yeah. Because I see the world that my grandchildren are going to. It's bad. It's terrible.
Some people will remember you as a dentist, or a politician, or a friend, a father, and grandfather. How do you want to be remembered?
Gosh. I would hope as a kind and honest person of integrity, who was interesting and interested in the world, and who was not frightened to do courageous, bold things, but above all was kind.
Yeah. That was it. That's fun.